Cowboy, tell me, do you fear me, or do you want me?" She breathed into the night. The flames hissed between them, throwing restless shadows across her features. Yet the way she clutched that rosary didn't feel right. Marcus had stumbled upon her less than an hour earlier, kneeling by a lifeless mule on a barren stretch of desert. Her dark habit was torn at the seam, prayer beads scattered across the dust like shattered glass. She introduced herself as Sister Evelyn Hart from the convent at Santa Lucia. But no convent allowed its sisters to travel alone through Comanche land at night. She offered thanks for his help with words too polished to be natural. Still, her gaze carried secrets that made his stomach twist with equal parts dread and intrigue. When he asked how she endured 3 days without water, she only smiled and said, "The Lord provides." Yet her lips bore no cracks, her skin showed no scorch, and her palms were too soft for someone who had clawed through desert sand. The strangest thing wasn't her flawless condition or her convenient tale. It was the way she observed him when she thought he wasn't watching, tracking his every move as though committing it to memory. And when the wind carried smoke from distant fires, she didn't question its source. She already knew. Marcus stirred the flames, sending sparks racing into the night sky, and tried to ignore the gnawing thought that their meeting wasn't chance. Because hidden in his saddlebags, wrapped in oiled hide, was a letter bearing her name. A letter he'd never laid eyes on before tonight, written in unfamiliar handwriting, filled with details of his destroyed homestead, knowledge only 3 people in the territory should have possessed. But Sister Evelyn Hart was listed as dead in convent records he had checked 2 months ago. The parchment seemed unnaturally heavy as his hand traced its edges through the leather. Across the fire, Sister Evelyn sat motionless, her fingers steepled in prayer, yet her eyes stayed fixed on him with an intensity that tightened his chest. The firelight exposed the smooth curve of her neck, where her habit had slipped aside, revealing skin pale and gleaming like ivory. "You look troubled, Mr. Grayson," she said softly, her tone carrying a richness foreign to any nun he had met. "Perhaps confession would ease your heart." His hand recoiled from the saddlebag. She knew his name, though he hadn't spoken it. The realization struck him like a bucket of cold water. Before he could reply, she shifted nearer, and the scent of jasmine mingled with burning cedar. No woman who had spent days in the wilderness should smell of flowers. "How do you know me?" he demanded. Word moves quickly in small lands. Her fingers rolled the beads with expert precision, but Marcus noticed she turned them backward, counter to the path of prayer, especially when it concerns men who've lost everything to flame. His jaw tightened. 3 weeks ago, while he was in town for supplies, his ranch had been reduced to ash, the stench of kerosene still lingering, the kind of blaze that consumed too quickly, too deliberately, the kind born of intent. "Tell me about Santa Lucia," he pressed, testing her story like probing a fresh wound. "A beautiful place," she replied, "stone walls thick enough to keep temptation away." Her smile glimmered across the fire, carrying something that warmed his blood despite the desert's chill. "But the strongest walls are often the easiest to breach, don't you agree?" The way she spoke of temptation drew his thoughts far from prayer. Each word lingered on her lips with calculated care, and when she dampened them with her tongue, Marcus found himself leaning unconsciously closer. "And what drew you to these sands, sister?" "The same as you, I suspect. A search for truth." Rising gracefully, she circled the fire, her habit whispering over the dunes. "Though sometimes truth reveals more than we bargain for." Kneeling beside him, close enough that he could feel her warmth, she slipped something from her garment that froze his breath, a charred piece of wood from his ranch, carved with his father's initials. "Tell me, Marcus," she whispered, her breath feathering his ear. "Do you believe in divine justice?" The blackened wood slipped from his hands into the dirt. His father had carved those initials the day they purchased the land, vowing it would remain in the Grayson line forever. Now it existed only as evidence in the grasp of a woman who claimed holiness but moved like sin itself. "Where did you find this?" His voice rasped low. Dangerous. Sister Evelyn stayed kneeling, close enough for him to see golden sparks dancing within her dark eyes. "Does it matter? What matters is that someone wanted you to see it." Her fingers brushed his wrist, heat racing up his arm. "Someone who knows your loss. You're no nun." The words broke free, carrying 3 weeks of rage and grief. "Nuns don't cross Comanche trails alone. They don't endure the desert without water, and they damn sure don't carry relics from burned estates." Instead of denial, she smiled, a smile that turned beauty into peril. "Was it the jasmine oil that betrayed me, or the fact that I never asked you to kneel in prayer?" He ought to have been furious, demanding answers. But his mind lingered only on the curve of her lips, the slip of fabric revealing her collarbone, and the undeniable truth that every instinct screamed she was dangerous, while every nerve begged him to discover exactly how. "Who are you really? Someone who's been looking for you, Marcus Grayson. Someone who knows that 3 men burned your ranch while you were in town buying supplies that conveniently took twice as long to load." She traced shapes in the sand between them, her motions mesmerizing in the firelight. "Someone who knows you've been asking in every saloon from here to Tucson, searching for those men." The truth landed like a blow. "You know who burned my ranch." "I know many things." She leaned in and the jasmine hit him again. "Augustine Clay paid your supplier to stall you that day. Elias Ford provided the kerosene, and Silas Crow struck the match that consumed everything your father built." 3 names he'd hunted for weeks, delivered by a woman in a nun's habit out in the open desert. It felt too neat, too staged, yet she spoke them with a quiet authority and a hint of sympathy that made him believe. "Why tell me this?" Her hand settled over his heart. The earth seemed to tilt beneath him. "Because, Marcus, sometimes God's justice needs very human hands." Her palm stayed pressed to his chest, feeling the frantic thud beneath. Her touch burned through his shirt, awakening a hunger unrelated to revenge and rooted in the way she stared into him as if reading his core. "Justice," he whispered. "What kind of justice?" "The kind that balances the scales." She removed her hand slowly, letting her fingertips travel down his sternum before pulling away. "Augustine Clay owns half the banks in the territory. Elias Ford controls water for every ranch within 50 miles. Silas Crow runs the telegraph lines." She rose and paced around the fire like a predator. "Alone they're respectable men with spotless names. Together they've been dismantling small ranches for 2 years, buying land for pennies after convenient accidents." The pieces snapped into place in his mind like the chambers of a revolver. "My father's wasn't the first." She halted across from him, flamelight dancing between them. "But it will be the last, if you help me stop them." "Help you?" He rose, closing some of the gap. "Lady, I don't even know your true name. For all I know, you're with them." Her laugh was rich and dangerous. "If I were allied with them, Marcus, you'd already be dead. They put a hit on you 3 days ago." She reached into her habit and produced a folded sheet. $50 for the man who brings proof of your death." The wanted sheet bore his name and a crude likeness, an X in red across the forehead. His fists curled as the reality set in. He wasn't merely hunting them, they were hunting him. "My real name is Lydia Barren. I was engaged to marry Silas Crow 2 months ago." Pain entered her voice, honest and raw, as she told how she discovered their schemes and realized her father's end had been arranged. Flamelight sculpted her face as she spoke. They thought killing him would rush me into a marriage with Silas to secure his standing in New Orleans. They didn't expect me to pry. They certainly didn't expect me to vanish from my own engagement and follow them across 3 states. So you're not after divine justice, you're after revenge. I want both. She moved in again, and when she looked at him he saw a vulnerability beneath the lethal beauty that caught his breath. I can't do it alone. They're too powerful, too woven into the territory. The sensible choice would have been to ride away and leave her schemes to unravel. But when she traced the line of his jaw with a fingertip, every thought of caution evaporated. What exactly do you want me to do? Help me ruin them. Reputations, businesses, lives. Her thumb brushed his lower lip. He fought the urge to claim her hand with his mouth, starting with the man who struck the match that burned his father's dream. Before he could answer, the sound of hooves cut across the desert, and Lydia's face shifted from seductive to lethal in an instant. She moved with startling speed, snuffing the flames down to glowing coals. "Grab your rifle," she hissed, voice hard as steel. 3 riders, maybe 4. They've been on us since sundown. Marcus snatched his Winchester from beside the saddle, the cold metal biting into his palms. "How do you know they're after us?" he asked. "Because I expected them." Lydia slipped a small derringer from beneath her habit, its mother-of-pearl grip catching starlight. "Silas doesn't tolerate loose ends, and I'm the loosest one he's ever had." Hooves grew louder, voices low and rough, cutting through the night. Marcus caught snatches. Not travelers, but hunters. Someone spoke his name. Someone else joked about quick money. Lydia pressed against his back, her breath warm at his ear. "When I nod, you take the leftmost man. I'll take the other 2. You handle the 2 with that long gun." Her whisper against his skin, calling him darling, made heat pool in his gut despite the danger. Shapes emerged from the dark. 3 riders, movement practiced and dangerous. The leader signaled the others to fan out. "Baxter!" he called, voice flat. "We know you're here. Make it easy." Lydia's hand squeezed his shoulder once. She was coiled like a spring. "Remember?" she murmured. "Left one." One rider asked about the woman. "Cross wanted proof Baxter's dead." Another answered. "Didn't say nothing about witnesses." The leader snorted. "A shame to waste a pretty nun." Then Lydia moved. She stepped from behind Marcus, palms up as if surrendering, the derringer hidden in her fist. "Please, sirs, I'm only a sister of mercy. This man offered me shelter." The leader eased, which was precisely her plan. "Sister, you picked the wrong protector. Step aside." She closed the gap with measured grace, then lowered her voice. "May I offer a prayer for your souls?" The leader laughed. Then Lydia's hand flashed and the pistol spoke, the first shot burying in his chest before he could pull leather. Marcus's rifle barked in answer, felling the rider on the left. The third turned to flee, but Lydia's second shot struck him down. 3 men dead in under 10 seconds. Marcus stared at her, a new unease mingling with astonishment. This wasn't luck, it was skill. "Where learned you to shoot like that?" he demanded. Lydia moved to the fallen leader and rifled his jacket, producing a scrap Marcus recognized even in dim light. A telegram signed by Silas Crow. She turned to him. Beautiful and terrifying. "Ready to hear the rest?" she asked, the paper crackling as she read by starlight. "Target confirmed alive. Eliminate immediately. Payment on proof of death. No witnesses. Crow." "He's escalating faster than I thought," she said. Marcus holstered his rifle, mind racing. 3 bodies lay where the riders had stood, and the woman who'd appeared out of nowhere had just shown a surgeon's calm with a weapon. "Who are you truly, Lydia?" he demanded. She went to her horse, a black mare hidden in shadow, and pulled from her saddlebags garments that stole his breath. In place of the nun's habit, she produced a fitted black riding suit that traced every curve. "Turn around," she ordered softly. "What? Unless you want to see how little of a nun I am?" The challenge in her tone sent heat through him. He forced his back to her, listening to the whisper of fabric as she changed. "I worked with the Pinkertons 3 years," she said plainly, voice carrying across the dunes, "doing undercover work and taking down gangs. My father wasn't merely killed, Marcus. He was investigating Crow and his partners for the government." The rustle of clothing ended. He fought the urge to look back. "So you're a federal agent?" he asked. "Was," she replied, bitterness undercutting the words. "Until I learned my father's death was ordered by the very men who were supposed to be on our side. When I tried to expose them, I was accused of stealing evidence and marked for death. So I vanished and finished the work myself." "You can look now," she said, and when he turned, the pretense of piety was gone. Rose stood before him, dressed in sleek black leather that molded to every curve. Her dark hair tumbled loose from its former disguise, cascading in waves along her shoulders. She resembled a flawless weapon, beautiful yet lethal. "Improved?" she asked, though her knowing smile revealed she already understood the effect she had on him. "You'll be the death of us both." His voice was harsher than intended. "Likely." She closed the distance, and moonlight gleamed in her eyes like silver fire. But what a way to fall! Her fingertips toyed with the buttons of his shirt. Not quite intimate, but hinting at promises that made his pulse thunder. "The question is, Clyde Baxter, are you prepared to wager everything for a shot at true justice?" He caught her hand against his chest. "And what are you suggesting?" "An alliance. Your knowledge of the land, my skill in infiltration and quiet elimination. Together we break Cross and his allies before they break us." Her free palm brushed his jaw, thumb skimming his cheek. "But first, I need proof you can endure working with me." "With you?" Her grin was pure temptation, with someone who always secures what she wants, by any means necessary. She leaned close, lips nearly grazing his ear. "With someone who's been imagining kissing you since that moment you pulled me from the desert dust." Before he could answer, she leaned back just enough to trap his gaze, and within it he glimpsed fragility that pierced his chest. "But first I need to know, when I ask you later tonight, what your reply will be. What question?" Rose's riddle drifted like smoke above embers, and Clyde felt snared by eyes heavy with secrets he wasn't sure he wanted unveiled. The way she looked at him, memorizing each feature of his face, stirred something reckless and wild within him. "The question I've wanted to ask since you rode from that dust cloud to find me." Her fingers tightened at his shoulders, curling the fabric beneath them. "But now, we need to handle the immediate threat." She gestured toward the corpses. "These 3 won't be noticed until morning. Once they are, Cross will send better hunters. We must be gone before then." Clyde forced his thoughts toward strategy, though her nearness fogged his mind. "There's an abandoned mine 10 miles south. Defensible, with water and escape routes. Ideal." She stepped away, and he immediately missed her warmth. "We'll camp there tomorrow. Plan our next strike." She hauled one corpse toward a rocky hollow. "Help me hide them. Then we ride." Concealing evidence together bred an unexpected intimacy. Their hands brushed as they shifted stones, their bodies pressed close while dragging the dead. Each incidental contact sparked heat through him. And from Rose's quickened breath when he leaned past her, he knew she felt it too. "Done," she said, examining their work. "By the time anyone comes, we'll be long gone." The desert stretched silver under the moon, silence so thick it amplified whispers. Rose walked back to him at the horses, her expression drying his mouth. "Before we face what's ahead," she murmured, "I need something answered." She edged closer, warmth radiating from her body. "I must know the kind of man you are." Her palms settled on his chest, his heart pounding against them, because what lies ahead demands absolute trust. Trust that comes from knowing someone entirely. "Rose." His voice rasped. "I've already shown you my truth." She continued, voice nearly a whisper. "I've killed 3 men in your sight. I've confessed to being a trained assassin bent on vengeance. I've told you I'm hunted by the very government I once served." Her hands framed his face, thumbs trailing his jaw. "Yet still you remain." The silence between them charged with dangerous possibility. When she finally spoke again, every word weighed heavy with unspoken things. "So tell me, Clyde Baxter," she breathed, her lips brushing his. "Do you fear me or want me?" The question lingered in the desert air like a fuse, every instinct inside him sparking opposite answers. For one endless moment, Clyde stared into Rose's eyes, seeing himself reflected in their mix of starlight and shadow. Her words were both challenge and promise, the most perilous temptation he had ever faced. "Both," he admitted at last, voice thick with truth. "I should fear you. Any sane man would flee from a woman who kills as naturally as breathing and lies with poetry." His hands held hers where they framed his face. "But I've never wanted anything more than to find what happens when I abandon sanity." The smile that curved her lips was both brilliant and dangerous. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear." When she kissed him, it was nothing like the tender fantasies he had carried. Lila kissed with total devotion, with the same lethal precision she brought to every action. Her mouth tasted of smoke, whiskey, and promises sharp enough to ruin him, and he kissed her back with 3 weeks' worth of grief, fury, and hunger that had been smouldering since he watched his father's ranch burn. When they finally tore apart, breathless, she rested her forehead against his. "We can't undo this, Nathan. Once we ride together, once we give each other complete trust, there's no pretending it's just vengeance anymore." "I know." His thumb stroked the soft curve of her cheek, amazed that hands capable of death could hold such delicate skin. "But you need to hear this from me too. When it's over, when Cross and his men are finished, I don't want you vanishing into the dark, like some beautiful phantom." Her eyes searched his face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I lost everything I thought mattered when they torched my land, my father's dream, my future, my very place in the world. He drew her against him until there was no space left. But maybe some things have to burn before you can build something stronger." Lila's fists curled into his shirt. "Nathan, what we're about to do will make us outlaws, fugitives forever. We'll never have normal lives. Since when were either of us normal?" He kissed her again, gentler this time, but just as fierce. "And I'd rather be a wanted man with you than a respected man without you." Distant thunder rolled across the desert, and Lila pulled back to scan the horizon. "That's not thunder. Riders, fast, from town. Cross has already sent more." Her gaze stayed fixed on his. "Are you ready?" "Truly ready. Because once we begin, we don't stop until every last one is broken or dead." Nathan swung onto his horse, reaching down to lift her up beside him. The feel of her hand in his, the trust carried in the gesture, sealed something deeper than any marriage vow. "Then let's end what they began," he said. Lila smiled, and in it he saw a vow of justice, vengeance, and a future he had never dared dream. Samuel Cross had no idea what storm was about to crash down on him. Together, they rode south towards the abandoned mine, leaving behind corpses, dust, and any illusion they could walk away unchanged. The noise of pursuit rose behind them. But for the first time since the fire, Nathan Rowe wasn't running from fate. He was charging toward it, with the deadliest woman he had ever known at his side. 6 months later, Nathan stood on the porch of his rebuilt ranch, watching Lila work the horses in the corral. Morning sunlight caught gold strands in her hair, and even now heat stirred in him every time she flashed that secret smile. The wanted posters with their names had been withdrawn 3 weeks earlier. Amazing how quickly federal charges vanish when evidence of corruption lands in the right newspaper offices. Lila's Pinkerton training had been priceless in tracking every bribe, every stolen acre, every murder orchestrated by Cross and his allies. Samuel Cross had been found dead in his cell, officially ruled suicide. But the guard had conveniently vanished for the precise minutes needed for a skilled hand to disguise murder as self-inflicted. Thomas Kellerman lost his banks when investigators seized his fortune, and he'd fled to Mexico to escape trial. Marcus Wade was discovered in his own well, shot twice in the back by unknown avengers. Justice, Lila called it, both divine and decidedly human. The ranch was larger now, stronger than before. They had purchased neighboring properties from grateful families, funded by money seized from Cross's hidden accounts. What had been his father's modest vision had grown into a thriving empire employing half the county. "You're thinking too hard again," Lila said as she climbed the porch steps with the same effortless grace that still left him breathless. She had traded her black leathers for work clothes, though her pistols still rode at her hips. Some habits refused to die. "Just thinking about how much has changed." He drew her close, marveling again at how perfectly she fit. "A year ago, I was just another struggling rancher. And now I'm a reformed outlaw running the biggest ranch in 3 counties, married to the most dangerous woman in the territory." He kissed her temple, inhaling that mix of jasmine and gun oil that belonged only to her. "Not the life my father imagined, but it's the life I chose." Her arms circled him, her warmth steady as always. "No regrets?" Nathan gazed out at the land they had reclaimed, purchased with blood and bound by trust. In the distance, ranch hands worked the cattle, men ruined by Cross's schemes who found new purpose here. Good men who asked no questions about their employer's past and repaid loyalty with hard work. "None," he said, and meant it. "Though I do have one question I've been holding back." Lila arched a brow. That look he'd learned meant trouble. "Only one?" He grinned, feeling younger than he had in years. "When strangers ride up asking who owns this place, and you smile that particular smile of yours." He traced her jaw with one finger. "Do you think they fear us, or desire us?" Lila's laugh rang out, rich and full of promise. "Both," she answered, echoing the words he had spoken that night in the desert. "And that's exactly how I want it." They kissed on the porch of their rebuilt dream, 2 dangerous souls who had finally found something worth being dangerous for, and Nathan knew his father would have been proud of what they had carved from the ashes.